It's time for a brand new episode of the Bakery Bears video show.
This is our lifestyle show featuring craft, baking, and a little bit of history.
We've got lots of projects to show and one of our special series to share.
What will we feature this time, and which of our projects will be our favourite?
Let's get on with the show and find out.
Welcome everybody to the Bakery Bears video show featuring my brand new co-presenter, Socks Galore.
What? Oh, the title of the episode.
Yeah, I was trying to do my Sean Connery. It wasn't very
That
good.
was supposed to be Sean Connery.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Sorry,
No,
about that.
Kay hasn't been cast as a Bond girl, although she should be. This show features more socks than you could possibly believe.
Yes.
It's literally so full of socks. It's just, I'm speechless.
There's a smattering of other things, but yes, it's quite sockalicious.
Yeah, but there's some good socks.
Some very good socks.
They're all good socks, in fact.
They're all good socks.
Yes.
But there's some very excellent socks.
Yes.
Very excellent. I don't think you can say a double.
Well, I think you can. I suspect you've done
Can
it before.
something be very excellent?
Yes.
I don't even know.
But that's not all, because we're featuring the penultimate episode of Britain, the Stately Era.
Yes.
And we're going to be visiting, it's an often forgotten, I mean, to be fair, I didn't even acknowledge it
No.
as being part of the Stately Home portfolio
And it so is.
until researching this series. We're going to the Townhouse. And the reason why the Townhouse is so important, and we'll cover this in the episode, is it was the advent of the Townhouse which brought down the grand scale of the stately home, made it more sort of, there it is on the street, one house, and suddenly it became the sort of trend setter for all the houses, for all of us as well.
Yeah.
So we're going to the most gorgeous townhouse.
Oh, it's lovely.
And like I've said so many times in the years of us doing these types of shows, I'm embarrassed to say that I've never been in it before.
No. We've walked past it a million times.
Well, we've walked past it a million times, and I obviously walked past it a gajillion times, because it literally was on my route with my mum to school when I was at the Minster School.
Isn't that funny how that happens?
It's a disgrace, I tell you.
And
Today
it's such a lovely place, and I went with Dan on this one. It was so nice, and Bryony was there as well, actually.
You did. Kay did. I mean, if you've been paying attention, no, that sounds terrible. But I went all teachery.
Yeah.
If you notice the
Scary.
credits at the end of the show, you will notice that at times you will see the camera people.
Camera people.
Are Kay, and also at times Bryony.
Sometimes Bryony. Yeah.
So, I mean, Kay shot a lot of the footage from this series that you've seen already. Oh, yes. But look, my goodness, Britain, the Stately Era, that's just our transition to, yes, the most exciting segment of the show.
Look at that bug. There was a really weird bug on the window outside. Sorry, my eye was distracted. It was like see-through. I've never seen a bug like that.
We will be transitioning using Britain, the Stately Era to, yes, of course, Pick of the Projects.
Pick of the Projects.
Coming later in the show. And it's an old, I mean, it seems wrong to say an old classic from me, but it sort of is.
Oh.
It's an old classic.
And it, yeah.
That is, I mean,
it's most excellent, though.
I looked at it
and I couldn't believe
like,
it when we rediscovered it.
Well, I couldn't believe I'd done it.
Yeah.
And now I've done a lot more of it, and I've not dropped in my abilities, so that's good. And also, your Pick of the Projects is amazing.
It's brand spanking new something that I'm obsessed with.
Well, I mean, that is exciting, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. What a show. Oh, yes, you've come to the right place.
You have indeed.
So, yes, look, without further ado, because, my goodness, there's some wonderful projects to show, actually, before we even get to Pick of the Projects.
I've had a very exciting, nitty 2 weeks, actually, doing lots
that's
of
good.
Really cool things. Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Yes. So, without further ado, then, I shall say, Kay Jones, what's on your needles?
So I'm starting off with the sock theme. We're having a little break in the middle and then we're going back to socks.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm starting off with a pair of socks, and this pair of socks actually is a little bit of time in the making. Oh, but I'm so enjoying them. So this pair of socks came about for a couple of reasons. The first reason is I wanted to use the yarn again. So I'm going to show you the pair of socks that inspired it that I knit last year. You might remember these. These are fresh from the washer, so they're clean, everybody. It's this pair of socks. Do you remember this pair? So what I did with this pair is I used a solid pink, and then this striping here is a little bit of leftover I had from... I've got it right here actually, this is a full skein. I had another skein of this which I made, gosh, I think 2 pairs of socks out of, and then I had this tiny little bit of leftover. And it's my absolute favourite self-striping yarn. And it's not in production right now. The dyer isn't currently dyeing, but I do have this precious skein which I bought, gosh, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, whenever she was dyeing. But it's London House Yarns, and it's Yule Ball, so it's a Harry Potter colourway, and I just love it. This is on the sparkle, and the other one was on the sparkle as well. So I haven't cracked into this yet, but I think I'm going to this year because of the thing I'm going to show you in Pick of the Projects. So let me pop that back. But yeah, this pair of socks. So the main colour is the one that I wanted to knit with again, this yarn. And this yarn is Eden Cottage Yarns, and it's Milburn 4-ply. And I just loved it. I love knitting with it when I made these. I was a bit dubious about it, and it's funny because you kind of forget, don't you, what your knitting experience was until you come back to something. And when I started knitting with it again, I remembered that I just wasn't sure how it would fare as a sock yarn. I don't think it's specifically a sock yarn, because to knit with, it doesn't feel like a typical sock yarn. It's a BFL silk, so neither one of those has got a huge amount of kind of cushiness. Silk is obviously very silky, but it's not a stretchy fibre, is it, silk? And BFL as well, it is a more kind of smooth, it has got a sheen to it, hasn't it, BFL? But it's not like a bouncy merino. But, you know, I've worn these loads and I kind of preserve wearing them because I just really love them. And they wash lovely, and that's the thing. Once they've been washed, they just become really lovely. It feels, it's got a little bit of tooth to it. You know, that BFL does have a little bit of tooth. You know, you can tell that there's proper wool in there. But that's good for socks, isn't it? So we've got the strength of the BFL, which is a nice strong fibre in itself. But then we've also got silk acting as the extra strengthener, you know. Nature's nylon. And I love them. They're an absolute joy to wear. They are wearing really well. You know, I haven't worn them tons, but I have worn them, and they've been in the washer 4-5 times, maybe, something like that. And they fare really well. I don't tumble dry them. I don't tumble dry any handmade socks. I put them in the washer, 30 degrees, short wash, you know, but I don't tumble dry them at all. And I don't know that these... Well, I've got the ball band here. Shall we just have a look at a ball band? It doesn't say you can tumble dry it. I don't think you'd be able to tumble dry this. I wouldn't at all. It doesn't say... It must be superwash because it's machine washable. But I absolutely wouldn't tumble dry it. So, yeah, this is the yarn. And I'm using, for this new pair of socks, I'm using 4 different colours of it. So it's Milburn 4-ply. And the makeup of the yarn is 85% Blueface Leicester, 15% silk. And they come in 50 gram sort of round balls. They're really cute. And you get 200 metres, 218 yards for 50 grams. So it's spot on the right yardage, isn't it, for a sock weight yarn. And it comes in a whole range of colours. So lovely. But for this new pair, what I wanted was very natural colours. There's a specific purpose and reason for these socks, which we can't tell you about right now. We're going away to do some filming actually next week, and these socks are linked to that. So I won't go into any details about that specifically because it's a bit of a surprise. But I have finished one sock and I'm on to the second because I want to actually finish these while we're away so I can photograph them while we're away. So I'll show you the first sock and then I'll tell you what I did. This hasn't been blocked. You can see I've gone for these really natural, slightly earthy colours maybe. So I've got the main colour here, which is compost, and I just love this brown. It's sort of got, I'd say it's a slightly sort of grey leaning brown. And then I've got three other colours here. So this pale beigey colour is wicker. The grey in the middle, which is a more blue grey than this one. This is very brown, this is a blue grey. This is steel. And then the light grey is rain. And I just love it. So what I've done on the cuff, if you can see here, it's got a bit of a fancy cuff. So I've put some sort of texture into the rib here, which I really like. And I did 4 rounds of each colour. And then a bit of the main colour, and then I put in some teeny stripes up here, and then straight through to just after the gusset decreases, and then I put in some thicker stripes again. Because I just wanted to do something a little bit different. I didn't want to do just a plain sock. And I didn't want to do the typical cuffs, heels and toes in different colours. I thought, let's just play around with these other colours that I've got and just see what I can come up with. And I really love it. It absolutely flew off the needles. Absolutely flew. I knit this sock in about 2.5 days, I think. It was so quick because I just couldn't stop knitting it. 1, I really was enjoying the yarn. 2, I'm using double points that I love, and I'll tell you about those. And then 3, I was enjoying putting in these stripes. I just wanted to see what it looked like. And I think it's really fun and just something a bit different. So I've done a short leg because that's just what I enjoy. And I'm on to the second one. Here it is. So I am finished with the leg, so I've done the stripy bit and ready now to start the heel. It's just lovely. And I decided with these to use double points because when I knit the pink pair, I remembered I used double points and really enjoyed the yarn with these needles. So I'm using them again, and I'm using Knit Picks Sunstruck. It's the ones that are just a plain wood. It's birch. So they are like the normal sort of Knit Picks symphonies, harmonies, but they're not coloured. And I love these. It's a really pale coloured wood, beautiful to knit with. And this one, I love this needle here. It's got like a little bit of darker wood in it. If I spin it, can you see that at the top there? It's got a darker bit of wood. And I just love that when I get to it. I think it's really pretty. So once again, I'm loving the combination of this yarn. This is the little compost ball that's left. I will have enough with 50 grams because I weighed it, and my first sock weighed my leftovers of the compost once I'd finished the first sock, and I'd got 28 grams left out of the 50, so I know I've got plenty. So I used about 22 or something of the main colour in this, so I'll have 5 or 6 grams left over, so plenty in the 50 grams, which is lovely. And then I'm just using a little tiny bit of the other colours. But what I'll be able to do, because I'll have a little bit of this left, I will be able to make another pair using one of the other colours as the main and using that one as a contrast, so that'll be fun. So yeah, I'm just really enjoying them, and I cast this on yesterday morning. I thought I'll just do the rib, and then a minute later I'd done the whole leg. Because I couldn't stop knitting them.
That's quite a few ends.
Yeah, it does have some ends, but if you want something pretty in life, you sometimes have to do a bit of extra work, don't you?
None of my projects have lots of ends on.
Oh, no, I'm sure you're going to see something with more ends than are in your nightmares.
It doesn't bother me in the slightest.
It doesn't bother me, and I'll show you the inside of my sock. This hasn't been blocked, so my ends have been woven in and snipped, but I've left them sort of fairly long, because they do suck in quite a lot, ends, don't they? Once you've washed them a couple of times as well. So I tend to leave my ends a little bit long. But look, this is where I've woven in. Can you see here? And I will be showing you actually how I weave in ends in the sort of last video of my perfect socks, because there's obviously ends to weave in there. So I'm going to show you my technique for weaving in ends, and I just sort of made it up. It just made sense to me to do it this way, and it just works perfectly. And I've been doing it this way for years, so our patrons will know, they will have seen me do it loads of times. But I don't think I've ever shown it here, if you know what I mean. I don't think I've ever seen anybody do it quite the way that I do it. I'm not saying that nobody does or that nobody has in the past, but whenever I've watched sort of weaving in videos, I've never seen it this way, and it just always works perfectly, closes the hole absolutely perfectly, and is just really easy to do. But yeah, there's a few ends, but hey ho,
that's not a lot of ends.
I don't mind. I've not got a problem with ends. When I'm weaving in ends, I know that I'm finished with something, so I'm happy, because I like finishing things, so it doesn't bother me. So yeah, my lovely pair of socks. I do have a little name for these, but I can't tell you that name until it's been revealed about where we'll be going.
Can I just feel that yarn? No, I went in the... What do you call that again?
I don't know, it's a little... I suppose it's a skein, isn't it?
So what... So a hank is a...
Well, historically, when I was younger, I always knew this as a hank. This was always called a hank. And a skein is sort of this. But we didn't, when I was young, I didn't even call this a skein. It was a ball of wool.
Because it is a ball, that, isn't it?
It's very round, yeah. I haven't got a full ball of this to show you.
I suppose it's been done on an ostepina, hasn't it?
Well, it's been done commercially on one. It's not been done by hand.
No.
So it's whatever the method is.
Yeah.
For creating.
It does look nice.
Yeah, for creating these little balls. They're very sweet. And you can just pull from the outside and it's not a bother. Don't have to wind it into a cake.
It's very cool feeling yarn.
Yeah, I think that's the... Oh, no, it's hot that's been in your hand.
Let's not speak about heat, Kay. I sat down for my breakfast this morning and nearly had to change chairs.
I just stood up. He was complaining because the chair was hot. I said, what can I say? I'm a menopausal woman. I'm hot all the time. I knew this as a ball and those as hanks. I don't think I'd ever heard the word skein.
No, I don't think I had.
No, until more recent years, really.
Yeah, I don't think... I mean, when my mum was knitting and when my gran was knitting and when they were teaching me when I was young, I don't recall anyone ever saying skein.
No, I mean, if you're from the UK at our sort of age, then do you remember anybody calling things skeins?
I certainly don't have a problem with that word, because I think a skein is a skein.
I use it all the time. I've not got a problem with it, but I think it maybe is a more...
Modern.
Maybe, somebody's going to tell me it's not and that it's a really old term, but maybe we just didn't use it back in the 70s, 80s.
Well, yarn didn't tend to, like you said, it didn't come in the way... It
didn't really come like this.
No. So that's a skein of yarn, isn't it?
We would call that a skein, yeah.
Yes.
But
so that's why we didn't use the word.
My mum would call that a hank. A hank of yarn. And I think, yarn would have come like that, wouldn't it, at some point? But then I think it just became more common in this country to use wool, I say in inverted commas, that's in a ball already. So yeah, absolutely loving this pair of socks, and these will be finished for the next time that I see you, so I'll be able to block them and then show you how lovely they look, once... Well, you've seen this pink pair, haven't you? Oh, they're so nice. I love wearing these socks, but every time I open my sock drawer at night, when I'm putting a pair on with my pyjamas, I go, I really want to wear my pink pair, but I want to preserve them as well. So now I'm knitting another pair. I won't need to do that, will I? I'll be able to wear those to oblivion.
Yeah.
So Dan Jones,
Yes.
what's on your needles?
It's this gorgeous pair of socks. Well, it's not a pair. I tell a little lie.
It's almost
It's
a
one
pair.
sock. One finished gorgeous sock. It's the Snow Forest socks. And they've been... I've really enjoyed knitting these so far, but I think I would like a bit more going on.
Are you a bit bored? Are you bored?
No, I'm not bored, but...
How very dare you?
No, I'm not bored. I think what this tells you is if you are more of a sort of textured sock, plain type sock knitter, I think this pattern would suit you very well.
Yes.
Whereas if you are a bit more sort of complex and you like a bit more of a challenge, this is definitely knitting in your comfort zone, which for me, when it comes to socks, is a good thing.
Yeah.
Because it certainly enables me to sort of focus down on what I'm doing. And so knitted one sock. And the second sock is well and truly on the way.
Look
at that.
You're on the gusset decreases.
I am indeed.
So that's lovely.
Yes.
This yarn's so nice. This is the first... Are they the same length?
Yes.
No, those ribs are a different length.
Oh, sorry.
Oh my gosh.
How many
way different. You've knit them different lengths.
How out is it?
Well...
That's good because if you recall, I missed out a row on the... So I've done a longer cuff, realising that I was going to make a mistake.
It's maybe a couple of rounds
Perfect.
longer.
That's perfect. That fixes the length issue on the socks.
I kind of can't bear it, but you know.
Yeah, well, you couldn't bear the small mistake I made.
No, can't look at it. No.
And so the two together have offset each other.
Right.
Perfection. So one sock's good, other sock not so good. So yes, really enjoying knitting this pair of socks.
Yarn's lovely.
And
It's the first colourway, wasn't it, from My Perfect Socks? It's the Do You Have the Shoe Books?
Yes.
So pretty.
Yes, and it really is.
I love how it's knit up as well.
Yeah, I know.
Just a lovely... Let me just put that on the thing again.
The only thing that I regret is forgetting to do the contrast heel and toe.
Well, I don't regret that.
Oh, 'cause you got the yarn.
I want the yarn, yeah. But I'll show you the plain side. I love how it's knit up.
The next sock I knit,
So pretty.
I'm doing the two rows of whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And then the same contrast heel and toe. Yes.
Yeah, that would be nice.
So, yeah, and I need to decide which one I'll do.
You want to use the gold yarn that I dyed last time, though, don't you?
If that's what I said, I'll do that. And if you could just give me a colour that goes with it, that would be exceptional.
I was going to give you a red, so it looks like Pooh Bear.
Oh, lovely. Oh, yes. That'll be marvellous.
But you've not decided what you want to knit yet, have you? I don't think.
No, so I'll definitely get onto that. I've realised the other day that
Maybe I'll design you a pair of Pooh Bear socks with like a lovely like honeycomb texture.
Absolutely, but I don't want you to be...
I know, but I like doing
put
things
under
like that.
So look, just forget about that. And
I want to do that.
Okay. If the time presents itself, I don't want to put pressure on you, so it's totally fine. So there's no rush, even if it was for next time or the time after, you know.
What you won't want to cast it on until...
No, I'm saying, even if it's, you know, that's a great idea, and if you don't get it, you know, if I finish this pair of socks and I'm onto another pair, then... So I realised the other day that I've been spelling Chiaogu wrong for many years.
It's a tricky word. It's like Chia-agu, isn't it?
There's an O in there.
There's an O and an A in the middle, isn't there? Yeah.
Yeah, the A I never seemed to struggle with. It was the O that would catch me out. 3 O's in one word. That's a lot of O's.
It is a lot of O's. I thought we got...
So to our Bakery Bear patrons, I sincerely apologise over the years, if ever Kay did, which she has done, if she's ever done a Chiagu review and I put without the O.
I think we've probably all done it, haven't we? Why have you got a Jameson and Smith Shetland worsted Aran weight label in that sock bag?
I don't know.
We'll take that out.
I have literally not a clue. So that is my first project. Yeah, I'm using the circular Chiaogu needles.
Oh, they're really nice. Yeah, it's Chiaogu double points. And is it 2.5 millimetre?
Yes, yeah. I found that's my perfect sock knitting needle.
Yeah, these are nice, the Chiaogu metal ones.
I've just found that the square needles, when you get down that small, they were just a bit too slippy, actually.
Yeah.
Things were dropping off the needles.
Yeah, these Chowgo ones, I think they've got a slightly brushed finish.
Yeah, they do. They're nice in the hand.
They're not as highly polished as like, a Knit Pick. What are they on? Are they Knit Pro?
Yeah, Knit Pro.
Knit Pro or I don't go near higher
No.
double points. They're so slidey.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
you'd have
I
to be
know
a super tight... Well, if you were a super tight knitter...
Yeah, I think you would have to be a tight knitter.
The thing is, though, wouldn't you then, if you've got tight knitting, isn't it more likely one's going to pop off the needle if it's super slidey?
Do you know, I don't know. I mean, I think lots of people who were... I mean, are you even aware if you're a loose or a tight knitter? I mean, I think you would be. I think we all know, Do we all know whether we knit loose
Only
or
if
tight?
you've got a point of reference.
Yeah, I
If
guess
you have no
so.
point of reference.
Probably if you knit a lot of jumpers and garments and things, you will probably know, won't you? Because it might be that you are always off on your gauge one way or the other, so you would know.
Yeah.
But then how do you know that the designer doesn't knit loosely? Because it's based on their gauge, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's a funny old thing, gauge, I think.
It is.
Yeah.
What else is on your needles?
So the next thing I've been working on is my Bits and Bobs cowl. Now, I've been really sort of taking my time with this because I love knitting it. I'm on that ball, yeah. I really love knitting this design and I didn't want to rush through it. I just wanted to have it in a bag for those moments when I just needed it. Because there are times when this pattern for me, it just does something to my brain. So let me show it you first and then we can chat about that. So I'm not far off finishing it actually. Oh, and I just love the yarns that I've used for this one. So this is my Bits and Bobs cowl. This is one of my designs, and I created this following on from designing the Bits and Bobs blanket. That's obviously knit flat, whereas the cowl is knit in the round. So the way that you knit it is different because we've got to change the stitches because we're knitting in the round. But it's got the same sort of rhythm. So if you've made a Bits and Bobs blanket, you understand how the stitches is created. It's a modified fisherman's rib, and I say modified because it isn't knit in the same way that a traditional fisherman's rib is knitted. I think it's way less sort of tedious, maybe is the wrong word, because fisherman's rib, the word rib tells you it's based on a standard rib, but the Bits and Bobs blanket and the cowl is not knit in that way, and I find it a much more pleasant thing to knit, very melodic in my brain. It's very I find it very soothing. So it basically looks like brioche because you can knit this kind of a texture. You can knit it either the way that brioche is knitted, or you can knit it as more of a fisherman's rib. I won't say loathe because I don't like using such strong words, but I'm not keen on brioche. The brioche stitch, working the brioche stitch. I can't see the point in knitting it the way that's knit when I can knit it this way and it's much easier. It's all personal opinion, isn't it? I know some people absolutely love knitting brioche stitch, so everyone likes their own thing.
I despise it.
Yeah, we tried it one time. We both sat down, didn't we, and tried it.
Yeah, and this was after I was at the time I was accomplished is the wrong word, but I'd done a lot of double knitting.
Yeah, you had done a lot of double knitting.
So it wasn't that I was coming from a very sort of beginnery point of view.
I've never done double knitting, so I didn't even have that knowledge.
It could not have been more not my cup of tea.
No, it's not my cup of tea either.
The only thing more not my cup of tea is crochet.
Oh no, you see, I love a bit of crochet, but we know that crochet was not your thing at all.
Or our daughter Bryony's.
No. And that's so funny because she's going to her final knit and natter group today at uni. It's the final one before the end of term, and they're having a pizza party, which she's very excited about. But most people in her knit and natter group crochet. I think she said there's one knitter, everybody else crochets, and she takes cross stitch. But that's perfectly fine. And she's really enjoyed having that club, hasn't she?
Well, she'll be there next year.
She'll be there next year.
Too right.
Yeah, she's almost finished. Can you believe? She actually finishes her lectures this week in university for this first year, which is just amazing. She doesn't have exams on her degree course because the next 2 weeks are exam weeks. So
hers are all assessments.
Hers are all assessments, ongoing assessments, and she's done so brilliantly well. Just for anybody who's curious, I know we talk about it quite a lot with our patrons about how well she's been doing, but she is doing brilliantly well. She's passed all of her assessments this year, and just, you know, it's not just the learning, it's everything else. It's the life learning that I'm most proud of her for, you know, all of these things that... It's funny, I was looking back in my planner for last year at this time, and she was taking her A-levels this time last year, and that just feels like a lifetime ago now. It's doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And there's I don't know why, certainly in the UK, I don't know about other countries, but there seems to be a bit of a certain amount of criticism that's thrown at university courses. And I would agree with pointless university courses that you know, are maybe a little bit sort of out there. And
yeah.
But even still, if that's your thing, I do find it hard to criticise. My point is, a lot of people criticise university courses. They say people should get out into the world and get on with living. And in my experience of being a teacher, also my experience of going to university and knowing other people who've been and other people who haven't been, you do more life learning at university than you ever did at school.
Yeah.
You know, you learn how to be and exist as a human being. Certainly I did, and everyone I ever spoke to, and certainly my experience as a teacher, kids at university learn how to look after themselves, how to feed themselves, while still having that protective cover.
That's it.
And the other thing is, we're a long time in the world, aren't we?
Yeah.
Let's you know, prolong our education as long as we can.
Yeah.
How many people go back later on in life? Nothing wrong with that. But if you have the support network to continue when you're young and you want to, do it.
Do it. And we're already saying to her, you know, think about... Because her course, her degree course is 3 years, and we're already saying, think, you know, if you want to do a master's after for another year, then, you know, we're all for supporting you for doing that, whatever you want to do. But yeah, she's just having such a great time, and she's in such a lovely place to do it. You know, so hugely jealous of her, but then just so happy that she's getting to do this, and yeah, it's just been amazing. So. Yeah, she's knitting nattering today. I don't know why I even mentioned that. It was a random tangent, wasn't it? But yeah, back to my bits and bobs. So this cowl is knitted with 2 strands of fingering weight held together. So what I've done for this version, because I wanted a dark coloured version, because the ones I've got 2 of these, and my original one, I'm looking at it over there, the one that's on the pattern is very light colours, very pale. Pretty pastel-y colours, and I wear that all the time. And then I've got another one that I actually used some mini skeins from Pixie Yarns. It was like a gradient set of mini skeins, so I held one of those together with like a neutral, and that one's really lovely as well. But I wanted a dark coloured one for the winter. I just thought that would be really nice and cosy. So I took a skein again of Pixie Yarn, and it is Hodgepodge was the colourway, and this is the skein that I'm holding all the way through, and it's this beautiful mixture of, can you see, just, it's dark, it's an overall dark colour, but there's just so many lovely colours in there. There's sort of browns and reds and golds, purples. It's really, really pretty. And then I've just been holding random leftovers. Most of them are Pixie Yarn, actually, together with them. So I went through I started off here with kind of golden sort of colours, and then I went into more deep sort of purplish reddishes, and then I'm going back out now. You can see at the top here it's started to look similar to down here, and I thought that would look really pretty to sort of have this faded look, sort of fading into this dark section and then back out again into this more kind of orangey section here. So at the moment I'm holding it double with this one, which is another Pixie Yarn called Bimble, and I knit Bryony's boyfriend a pair of fingerless mitts with this. And this was the leftovers. So I've got about 30 grams of my main colour left. And it uses, I don't think it uses all of the 100 grams. I'll have to check my pattern. You can just knit it as long as you want. You know, this is 70 grams, basically, this length. So I guess it's about another, I don't know, will it be sort of here-ish, something like that? That seems about right to me. But I think I'll have a little bit of the main colour left, maybe 10 grams or something. So yeah, I'm really, really enjoying it. And like I say, I love having this just in a bag waiting for those moments when I just think, oh yes, I just need that bit of soothing brainness.
That was excellent English.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yes, proud of that.
Wonderful. So, we said earlier on in the show that it's the penultimate episode. Can you believe it? It's the penultimate episode of Britain, the Stately Era. I
can't believe it.
I know. This is, though, it's my most exciting period of this series because the finale is like just spectacular. Everything sort of comes together and it's just the business. But we're building up to that finale with a visit, as we mentioned earlier on, to the often forgotten part of the stately home portfolio, the Townhouse. It is a spectacular place. It has a name which you might just recognise from episode 1 of this series. This is Britain, the Stately Era.
Welcome to modern Britain. These are scenes many of us will know all too well. The question is, how did we get here?
Society did not arrive here by chance. If we look back through history, we can pinpoint moments where decisions were made, often by the smallest demographic of people, that led us to a point where the modern world would thrive.
King Alfred the Great defeated the Vikings in the 9th century. The castle's arrival in the 11th century. The dissolution of the monasteries in the 16th century.
But there's just one event that set Britain on course to where she stands today.
That event brought about the birth of modern journalism. It inspired the construction of a navy which would in time deliver an empire, but also win a world war. And most importantly, it gave the country a government and a monarchy which remains to this day.
But it starts at a time when we had no monarchy at all. This is the story of the English Republic, an earth-shattering period in history which saw the end of the castle and the end of all powerful kings and queens. This was the first chapter of the modern world that we all now live in, and it was set against an architectural revolution, one that would deliver the homes that the new people in charge would live in. Welcome to Britain, the Stately Era. Welcome back to York, everyone, and behind me actually lies the remains of St Leonard's Hospital. The monks that ran this originally owned the land that Benningborough Hall was built on, that we visited in episode 2. Today we're going to be visiting something every aristocrat needed, the chic townhouse. But before we do that, let's remember all that we discovered on the last episode of Britain, the stately era.
We visited Harewood House and we discovered that the advent of landscape gardens led to the destruction of many villages which used to surround stately homes. We learnt about the drawing room and its place in the changing architectural design of the stately home. And we visited Ireland to continue the story of the man who would empower the age of the stately home, Oliver Cromwell. Today, that story will continue as we discover if he will accept Parliament's offer to become King of England. We will reveal the fascinating story around the arrival of the coffee shop, and we'll look into the impact that it had on society at large.
And we will visit one of the best preserved townhouses in England, built a stone's throw from York's imposing castle. But when I saw you last time, we finished with a bit of a cliffhanger. The year was 1657, and it had been 8 years since the last King of England had been removed and then executed. Who was instrumental in that process? It was, of course, Oliver Cromwell. Now, the MPs in Westminster have brought forward a bill. They want to bring back the monarchy. And who have they offered it to? Oliver Cromwell. So who is this man, and how had he risen so high?
His family's money had passed down the generations from Thomas Cromwell, the man who had masterminded and benefited financially from the dissolution of the monasteries. Oliver was a lowly relative, and so his inheritance had been small, but it had enabled him to become a minor landowner in Cambridgeshire.
As he hit his late 20s, Cromwell started to suffer from erratic episodes. And for some reason, they were always focused on his town's market cross. He would call the doctor at all hours of the day and night, hoping to get some sort of respite and help.
Because of this ailment, Cromwell was excluded from the town's council, which he took great offence at. As he reached his early 30s, he began making disgraceful and unseemly speeches, all driven by his anger. It resulted in him spending time in jail.
Cromwell was utterly humiliated. He left his family home and he set out for St Ives with his wife and 6 children to set up a new life. No one knows if they had a plan at all. But it was in these years that Cromwell told people in later life they had the spiritual awakening that would drive him for the rest of his life.
His energies would now be put into what he thought was the work of God. In time came the position of Member of Parliament for Cambridge, and as the Civil War began, finally he found his true calling. He was a superb field general, acting in what he always felt like was divine intervention. His pious drive and ruthless military success now had taken him higher than anyone could have imagined. So high, in fact, that he now had the chance to become King of England himself.
This really is the crossroads in our story, because most historians agree that if Cromwell had accepted, his family legacy would have been secured, and his sons would then have been the royalty and grandsons and great-grandsons that perhaps would still be with us today. Also, as well, it was a masterstroke because with the return of the monarchy, it would mean a return of the House of Lords. And that would mean that the dictatorship was over. And just perhaps bringing back a king or a queen of any type would appease those the royalists who'd never wanted rid of the king in the first place. The question was, would Cromwell accept? This was the last best hope for a shattered kingdom. Let's head off to London and see what happened next. For 6 weeks, Oliver Cromwell agonised over the offer. Whilst he was attracted by the prospect of the stability it might bring, in the spring of 1657 he refused. Any chance of real healing for the country was now gone. Instead, he agreed to be reinstalled as Lord Protector, and he refused the trappings of kingship. It was, though, all words. Cromwell was enthroned in purple and ermine and invested with a sword and sceptre. The Venetian ambassador who attended the ceremony said all that was missing was the crown. He even was living at Hampton Court. Cromwell had ignored the will of the people and gone his own way once again. As Cromwell's new parliament came into session, all was not well. There were too many angry men, annoyed that Cromwell had not accepted their offer to become king. They refused to cooperate with him, and so 2 weeks after they'd formed, he sent them home. This was the moment when real leadership and direction was needed, and just perhaps it might have come. But then, disaster struck. Cromwell lost his daughter. The history books tell us that a silent fire consumed her from within. He sat with her in her final moments, and with her passing, it seems he too lost the will to live. He called for his steward to put his affairs in order. 24 hours later, Oliver Cromwell died in the royal apartments at Whitehall Palace. He was 59 years old. The cause was sepsis, brought on from a bout of malaria. He had been offered a new treatment, which would go on to save thousands of lives, but he refused because it had been developed by Catholic missionaries. The ruthless rule of Oliver Cromwell was finally over. The question was, who would succeed him? It was a fascinating question, because if Cromwell had accepted the kingship, which he actually had done, actually in all but name anyway, because he was living as a king, even though he might not have been called a king. But if he'd officially have taken that title, then his legacy would have been secured, and his firstborn son, Richard, would have been the next in the line of succession. The problem was, his second son, Henry, was a born leader. So which one would he choose? We'll find out later on in the episode. Because right at this moment, as this was happening in the world, life for people like you and me was starting to get just a little bit better. Because it was around this time that the first coffee shops appeared. Known then as the Arabian bean, it had arrived in the early 1650s, and by 1659 it was available on every street. Sitting on wooden benches, puffing tobacco from long pipes, customers sat, read the paper and debated politics. It was the dawn of what became known as the coffee house, a distinctive social culture that treated all customers equally. Thank you, brilliant. Thank you very much. The London Stock Exchange originated in a coffee house. The first newspapers were produced from a coffee house. And it's thought as well that this was the first place that anyone ever tipped. Supposedly, as you walked into the coffee houses in London when they first opened, if you dropped the equivalent of £1.80 into a tin as you walked in, you were assured the best service and the best coffee.
It was in these exciting years that the first opera was also performed in England. It took place at Covent Garden in London, and it featured exquisite scenery and the latest in theatrical special effects. Life was starting to turn a corner, and it was being driven by the new middle classes.
It was in this moment that the country houses of England started to appear as we know them today. Those that were new in power used their new wealth and influence to build new homes, and those that were out of power now spent all their time taking care of their current estates.
The years of civil war had been immensely destructive, and now into that space sprung ornamental gardens, waterfalls, new wings of houses, and all the latest fashions. It was the new middle class that was really driving the dramatic expansion of the British stately home.
Initially focused around London, rich merchants were now making vast amounts of money in what was becoming a booming economy. Many of the families who made their name in the years towards the end of Cromwell's England own many of the stately homes that we know to this day. And when we come back in part 2, we're going to be visiting a type of house that many of this new money sect would have known well. For now though, thank you so much for watching Britain the Stately Era, and I'll see you later on in the show with more.
Can you believe it? The arrival of the coffee shop.
Oh.
That was really funny as well when we filmed that. Because,
oh gosh, yeah.
Because there was a lady in front of me as I got up to the front of the queue. And she was, I mean, talk about flirting.
She was really... It was two dudes, wasn't it?
Two Italian guys.
Yeah, and
she was
two Italian guys.
Flirting.
And she was so... I was
stood there 5 minutes.
It was longer than 5 minutes, because I was filming down the whole time. I just thought, oh, just leave it filming.
Because I said to you that you needed to.
Yeah, just leave it filming. And I was sat at this table, and it was cold that day. And I was like, oh, gosh, hurry up. And she was just... Oh, it was so funny to watch. Really interesting to watch, great people watching.
Little did she know, because, of course, I had my close mic on, so we got everything that she was saying, which is really quite funny. But my goodness, the arrival of the coffee shop.
Yes.
And how cool that it wasn't called coffee then, the Arabian bean. But then also...
I think we should still call it that.
And to see as well how... I had no idea that the arrival of the coffee shop then brought on so many things, because, if you had the money for a coffee, they would serve you. It didn't matter if you were from the lowest or the highest in society.
Quite right, yeah.
It was actually, it's a period of history that I wasn't really aware of. It's known as the coffee house period. And there was all sorts of things that came out of that. And something that we covered in the episode there was that the London Stock Exchange started in the coffee house. I mean, just amazing. We've not even got in the house yet, though.
Oh,
that's
it's
all
so lovely. It had such a warm, friendly feel, didn't it?
Yeah, the nice people too.
The guides were just so lovely. They were all ladies, I think.
Yeah, they were.
All ladies, weren't they?
Yeah.
Just such lovely, informative, friendly people there.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And, I think what was quite surprising was the fact that it sat right there in the middle of York, and I would guess that a huge proportion of people will just stroll past.
Yeah,
and the reason is because, there's the Minster.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's Clifford's Tower.
Yeah.
And look at the walls.
Because it's right by Clifford's Tower, isn't it? It's really close to there.
So you sort of, take for granted something that is, in fact, a real hidden gem. So, coming up later in the show, trust me, it's worth the wait. Yeah. You're going to like it.
I haven't seen it yet. I normally watch it before, but I haven't seen it, so I'll have to wait.
Fun. Oh my goodness, it's time for my pick of the projects.
Oh
yes,
I'm very excited.
First. Yeah, always.
This is fantastic. You're all going to go, I remember that. I wonder what happened to that.
Maybe some people are new.
Maybe some people are new and you've never seen this before. If you've never seen this before, you're in for a treat.
Take a look at this. What do you think? Do you believe that I actually knitted this?
Well, I do, because I've been sat with you and you've
Yeah,
been
'cause you
knitting
was.
it. But even I don't believe it.
The funny thing is, I look at it and I think, huh?
Did I knit that?
How is that appearing below my needles? This is the Roosty. It is a tank top.
Yep.
Ella Gordon, is it?
It's by Ella Gordon.
Oh, boom. Look at me go.
Yep.
And a really interesting point in the knit, because I had, as the pattern goes, I'd completed the body.
It's really short. I've
But
got
it
the.
is.
Can you see how short it is
It's
there?
super short. So what we did was we got out one of Kay's tank tops that she likes to wear.
Yeah.
We looked at how that was sitting. We looked at the length, and we realised that if I did another repeat of the colour work, then that would give us slightly more,
Yeah.
but absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
And I actually think that the design is sort of deliberately short and very sort of on trend.
Yeah, and it's also quite often with tank tops, the armholes are sort of longer, aren't they? And the ones that I've got, the bought ones, one of them does have a really long armhole, the other one not so much. But this one's got quite a snug armhole. Can you see there? So I wanted to be sure. I mean, and that to me is very short. I don't. Oh, sorry, darling.
It's all right.
I don't do cropped.
No, and what's funny is
Cropped.
you bought a tank top from that place that does good tank tops.
Yes.
And that's super cropped too.
It is, but well, I say I don't do cropped. With a tank top, I don't mind if it's a bit cropped, because I always wear a shirt underneath it that's longer. I would never do what this lovely lady here has done and just wear it with I don't know if it's trousers or a skirt, because I have a real issue, right, with the cut of jeans these days, because a lot of them are really high-waisted, aren't they? It's just fashions. Fashions change, don't they? Things come and go. And at the moment, I've noticed that a lot of them are really high-waisted. I can't stand high-waisted jeans. I've got quite a long body. It just feels wrong. I prefer low-slung jeans, so I prefer a low-rise jean, which you don't see very often these days. Please come back in fashion, low-rise jeans, because I actually prefer them to sit below my waist. I find
Check
that
out my floats.
much more comfortable. Anyway, random tangent again. Those are very beautiful floats. The colour, this is black and white, I know, which is not very helpful. But the colours, if you go look at the Roosty tank top, the colours that she's chosen, I seem to remember they were like blues. Were they blues and oranges, I think? And I wasn't keen on that. It's not really my bag. So
these are the colours.
I chose these colours, yeah.
Yes, and they're working to absolute perfection.
Looks beautiful.
And the yarn is Jameson and Smith. It's
Yeah.
a fingering weight. And
Jumper weight. 2-ply jumper weight.
And I can't begin to tell you how lovely this yarn is to work with, and how different it is to the yarn that I knitted the Aaron Harper Gansey in, which was also Jameson Smith.
Yeah.
But it was the thicker yarn. The yarn that I knitted the Aaron Harper Gansey with was also Jameson and Smith, and it was totally different in feel in the hands. It really wasn't. I'll be honest, I don't think I really enjoyed working with it. I love working with this.
Yeah, it's a different...
To the same point, to the same level as Let Lopi.
Yeah, it's a completely different... The Aran weight was totally different.
This seems more uniform. It seems nicely spun. It's sort of light. It's got a cool feel, a bit like that yarn you had before.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant for colour work.
It's brilliant because it's very sticky, you know.
Yeah, but there's no... I don't feel a prickle, not like with Let Lopi.
No. It's
Not at
nothing
all.
like Let Lopi.
No. So it is a really sort of cool and unique yarn for me to work with, just in the yarns that I've knitted with recently.
I could wear... I think once this had been washed, I think I could probably wear this next to skin.
Yeah.
But it's a tank top, so it wouldn't be anyway.
So why did this go away? It was because it was taking me a while to knit.
Yeah.
And it
Slow.
still probably will take me a while to knit, so it won't always be on the needles. I got that out to show my...
Look at the ends.
Now that's a lot of ends. And there's obviously going to be 4 times more than that, because the colour work carries on right the way up.
Yeah. So it's just so beautiful. I mean, how lovely is this? If we'd gone by the pattern, I think this was the length, wasn't it?
Yes.
That they said that you should go to and then start the armholes. But I mean, gosh, look at it's like...
The thing is, though, when something is as beautiful as that...
It's not even near my waist.
I think that it's not going to be overload having another repeat of it.
No.
I think that, it's going to make it even more spectacular. What inspires me with this project is finishing it and you putting it on.
Yeah, it's just
because I think
beautiful.
It'll be this, so long as I can finish it right, and I think I probably can.
Yeah, because it's steeked, isn't it?
Yeah, so you're just knitting straight up. So it's not like...
We'll be able to do it.
So I think that this will be your best tank top by a
million
miles.
Well, I will have this forever. I mean, it'll just be such a precious thing.
But I think what this shows you
It's
is...
so beautiful. You've done such an amazing job with it.
What it shows you is, my goodness, because you've got a couple of really beautiful and expensive tank tops.
Yeah,
but
I have.
This absolutely destroys them in the beauty and everything. And it shows you what a brilliant art form knitting is. Because you can create things that you could never, ever buy.
We need to really go to a Shetland island, don't we?
Don't tempt me.
To knit
Don't begin to tempt me.
I know. It's just beautiful.
So yes, that is my Roosty, and it's rather spectacular.
It really is.
And you may have noticed that in the background again we're joined by our co-hosts.
Oh, there they are.
It is the boys.
It's the
Pooh and
boys.
Tigger.
It's Tigger and Pooh.
And they insisted on muscling their way
Yes.
in because we are, of course,
Gate crashing again.
we're days away.
We are.
Well, maybe a couple of weeks away.
Oh.
From the launch of
Yes.
the Summer of Stitching.
We are.
And this year is all set in our own little 100-acre wood.
Yes.
And we thought that perhaps you might like to see these fresh off the needles, if you like, fresh off the editing needles.
Yes.
A little 2-minute, or maybe just slightly under 2-minute taster.
Little snippet.
What's coming up on the first... So there's 5 videos that come out in the first series. There's 3 series over the course of 3 months. The first series is all about the 100-acre wood blanket.
Yep.
And this is a little snippet from the first of 5 videos that goes with that series.
Welcome, everybody, to the Summer of Stitching 2025. So today we are casting on our blanket. So what you will get is you'll get the relevant portion of the pattern, and then you will also get 2 video tutorials, and those 2 videos are going to show you how to work your first square, and then you'll get another video which shows you then how to continue on and complete your first strip. Okay, so here we are ready to start square 1. So the way that all of our squares are going to be knitted is exactly the same. So what we do first of all is we do just a plain knit row. I call this the setup row in the pattern. Okay, so here we are now ready to start square 2. And once you know how to do square 2, you will then repeat that all the way up to the top of this first strip. So the Summer of Stitching is now officially underway. I hope you really enjoy starting your blanket.
How wonderful was that? It's going to be so amazing.
Yes.
We're very, very
Can't
excited.
wait. And I know that lots of our patrons have been gathering all of their leftovers and minis, and
Yes.
there's been swaps going on as well, which is fun.
And we've got actually a listing that's open to the world that you can see all the things that's needed for all the things that are coming up.
Yeah.
Actually, you listed lots of things, so it's very exciting.
Yeah.
So that is our Summer of Stitching, and it starts officially on the 3rd of June. But you are putting out... Oh, crumbs. Have you already put it out yet? No, I don't think we have. You've got a 100-acre wood...
Design diary.
It is out already.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. So there's already a 100-acre wood design diary out, and
Yeah.
And there's also... You wrote an article in Knitability too.
Yes.
All about the Summer of Stitching.
Yes.
Cool.
Very, very
I think
exciting.
we've built up now successfully to what we've all been waiting for. Kay Jones, what is your pick of the projects?
Well, my pick of the projects it's some socks, and it's hopefully going to be a new design. I'm currently in the very much the working on it stage. But this pair of socks came about, I've said that once already, haven't I? But this one came about because, well, since I designed my fairground socks, which was, I don't know, a couple of years ago now, was it? I've wanted to design another pair of socks that's for self-striping yarn, but that didn't have that eyelet detail, so that wasn't any sort of, I'll say it wasn't really a lace pattern, the fairground socks, it's got eyelets in it. But I wanted to design a pair of socks that didn't have eyelets, so that it was more of a unisex pattern. At the time I designed the fairground socks, they were exactly what I wanted to design. You know, it was that pair that I wanted to design. But I wanted then, you know, and at the time I was sort of thinking about doing another pair, and, you know, things happen, don't they? And other things come along. And I've only just recently had the kind of brain space and design time space to just think about it. And what I wanted to do was look at ways of creating movement within a sock so that you get that movement like with the fairground pattern, but that doesn't use eyelets, you know, that uses other ways of increasing and decreasing and what have you. And typically the most common way of doing that is with a chevron stitch. Now, the problem with chevron stitch is that it will typically reduce the stretchiness of a fabric. So I've kind of always dismissed it for that reason, thinking, you know, it's just not really practical. And there is a really famous chevron stitch free pattern that came out years ago that was very popular at the time. Is it the J Walker socks, is it? I've got a memory of. And it's a free pattern, that one, I think. That's the kind of thing I was thinking of, but I know that, you know, I read some comments and had a look at projects and things, and the sort of general feeling was that it was mixed. Some people said it fit fine and some people said it was tight, even though with that pattern the stitch counts are way higher than you would normally cast on for your typical 3 sizes. And that's what I wanted to avoid. I wanted to see whether I could produce something that used your typical cast on numbers that people know and love and can rely on, but that would give you this kind of a feel that sort of pattern gave you. So what I did was I sort of went back to basics and thought, right, you know, I got out my stitch dictionary books and I looked at a whole host of different sort of chevron patterns and saw how they were created. And from that, I kind of thought to myself, well, I think I can sort of work out why it's restrictive. And I think it comes down to a couple of things. One, I think it's the way that the increases and decreases, particularly the increases, are produced. And then also, I think it's the frequency of working that pattern row. So with that in mind, I thought, right, let's have a play around. And I just charted some stuff out and I thought, right, well, let's just try that. And will it work? I have no idea. So I got a swatch, I just picked out some leftovers of self-striping yarn and I just tried all sorts of different things. And I came up with something. And I finished a whole sock. And I've also cast on another one that's very slightly modified from this one because I'm just trying out how stretchy they both are. The one that I finished, that I'm going to show you in a second, I put it on my foot, it fits fine. You know, so, but I appreciate that everybody's feet are different, aren't they? And I want to just explore, which is what I'm doing in the second sock, which I'm going to show you. I want to just explore whether just tweaking it a little bit will A, still give me the effect I want, but then B, I know it will also give a bit of extra stretch. So, all that waffle to say, I'm going to show you the first sock that I finished. Isn't that lovely? So I've used yarn by Freckled Whimsy. This one that you're looking at now was one of her Halloween colourways. It was the one that came in February, and it's called Happy Pinkoween. So I hope you can see that we're getting that chevron pattern. But what I think it looks like is more of a slight swag. So you've got the peaks here at the top, which are quite pointy. But then over this bit, it's a little bit more of a swag. You know, it's not as pointy going down. And I just think it's so lovely. I have done a heel. You can see I've done a slip stitch heel flap, and I've done a square heel turn, because I've said this before, but if you ever want to avoid it going really skinny here over the gusset decreases, your striping, use a square heel turn, because there's fewer gusset stitches to decrease. That does obviously mean that you're not going to have as many stitches across your gusset to decrease. So bear that in mind if you've got a really high instep, you know, it might not suit you doing it that way. But I've knit this square heel, I don't know how many times. Never had a problem with fit, and Bryony as well. But yeah, what do you think? I love it. And I love this yarn so much. Isn't this yarn the most fun thing ever? Now, I do have a name in my head for this, but I'm not going to say what it is right now, because I'm not fully decided. But I wanted to show you, this has been blocked. So I wanted to show you how much stretch there is. It's difficult to sort of show you stretch, isn't it? But I mean, if you see, can you see there is a lot of stretch in this pattern, you know? And like I said, stretch is never a problem on the foot, because you've got stocking stitch on the other side. The problematic area, if you're going to be bothered by how stretchy something is sort of particularly this bit here. So you'll get it over your foot, but then if anybody's going to struggle, it's across this area. So, you know, when I pulled this onto my foot, I sort of closed my eyes and just thought, what do socks normally feel like? Does this feel the same? And it went on absolutely fine. That being said, I'll show you another pair in a second that I've started that's just very slightly modified, that I know will give me a little bit of extra stretch. So I'm going to knit that one, block that one, and then I can put them both on. I can put one on one foot, one on the other, and then I'll be able to judge if one does have a little bit more stretch than the other, and just how I feel, you know, just make sure that it's still showing that pattern really well. But I love it. So it is, you know, it is a sort of a chevron stitch, but I've modified it, and I haven't done it the kind of typical way, let's say. So I know there are patterns out there for socks, like I say, that have a sort of chevron based stitch. Sometimes the pattern's only on the front, and I think part of the reason for that is because of this whole issue with stretch. You know, that if it's only on the front of the sock, then you're not going to have those issues. But I just wanted to see if I could do it like this, and I did. So let me show you the other one. I haven't cast the second one of that on yet, because when I finished that, I thought, right, I'm going to cast on another pair and just change it very slightly. One thing that I would definitely say, and I would, if I do release this as a pattern, what I would put in there is that I would recommend that you just got to be sure of your gauge, really watch your gauge. And I'm going to recommend using a 2.5mm instead of the normal 2.25. That being said, it depends on your gauge really. So it's one of those patterns where normally for a pair of socks, you might not pay attention to what the gauge is, because you know how you knit and all of that. This would be one of those patterns where you would really just have to pay attention to the gauge, and if your gauge is tighter than the pattern, then definitely go up a needle size, which is, you know, it's not a problem, is it? So I've cast on another pair, and I'm just on the leg, and I'm using Freckled Whimsy again because I've got loads of it and it's lovely. This time I'm using it was a club colourway, but it was from 2023, and it was from the Spells and Things Club, and it was Harry Potter Year 3. And it was called Sugar Quill, She uses these holographic stickers, which are really fun. So sugar quill, and I love these stripes actually. So this is just very slightly modified from the one that I've just showed you. So my thought with this is I want to check if the pattern still looks the same and also the difference in stretch. So this is where I'm up to with this one. I actually knit some more of this morning because I wanted to get to those blues. So right now, here is where I'm up to with those blues at the bottom. So far I'm really pleased. I think it's possibly a little less chevron-y, but that's difficult to tell until I've completed the sock, because the more of the stitch pattern you knit, the more the movement shows up, because you are stacking up the pattern rows. So I'm holding fire to see what this looks like once it's finished. But I definitely know that this one will have a little bit more stretch, but the other one's absolutely fine. But I always go through a process with designing, right, where I get really excited and I'm like, this is the best thing I've ever designed. And then the next minute I'll be like, no, this is rubbish. And then the next minute I'll be back to thinking, oh, actually, I think it's all right. And then, I go through all kinds of emotions. But I really love this. And when I started knitting it, I'm like, I got a feeling. And I kind of know when, from everything that I've designed now, especially socks, I just got that feeling that I was like, this is lovely. And it's that sort of perfect pattern where you can memorise it really easily. You can track where you are, you can read your knitting, you can work out when you need to do your pattern rows, and it just flies, and it's sort of like a vanilla sock, but you're getting way more than a vanilla sock. So I'm really pleased. Let me know what you think. And I haven't shown this to anyone or spoken to anyone about it. You're the first people that I've spoken to about it. So what my plan is, I'm going to finish this one. I'm then going to put them both on, block it, put them both on my feet, decide which of the two patterns I'm going to go with. I'm going to finish both of these pairs. These will both be for Bryony. So I'll finish both of these pairs, but then I will decide which one I'm going to go with and, forward as a pattern, and then I'll just then go through the process. But I really love it.
What a gorgeous pick of the project.
I know.
And we need more socks. So I think that we should find out, Kay Jones, what's off your needles?
My goodness. Well, continuing with the sock galore theme, I've got 2 pairs of finished socks. I really wanted to get more things finished for this show before we go away, but look, I finished 2 things, so it's a win. I got distracted by that amazing sock design, so it's a good excuse, isn't it? But I have finished Dan's socks.
The perfect DK weight sock pattern.
Yes.
Oh yeah, well, we'll find out.
Well, we'll find out.
Yes.
Because Dan will be wearing these very,
it seemed
very
good
shortly.
In principle. Now we'll find out what it's like on the foot.
Let's see how these fare. So I used Drops Fiesta for these, DK weight. And I used Watermelon is the main colour. The pink is Cerise, and I think the blue is called Denim. I think it was Denim. And yeah, I produced these lovely socks for Dan. So I've added this texture pattern in. It's a bit of a rib, bit of a sort of brokenish rib. And we're going to see how these fare, because we spoke a lot about DK weight socks last time. So
yes.
If you haven't watched, then go back and watch it. But I'm going to be doing a lot of work around DK weight socks. So I'm waiting for Dan to try these out and see how they go.
Nice.
And then I did buy a load of that yarn that I told you about, the Sheepies Merino Soft. I've got a whole bag of it in all different colours. So I'm going to be using some of that to make some more pairs. So I will, when I get to those, I'll show you. But it looks
feels
really
robust.
lovely. Yeah, it does feel robust. It feels like it's got a bit of tooth. And I've got 2 pairs of these that I knit last year. It's really nice and warm. I wear them when it's, I've been wearing them when it's been cold through the winter. Really comfortable, really warm. So I think you'll like those.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Fingers
It's
crossed
exciting.
we shall report back once he's worn them for a bit.
I'm sorry, but it's not acceptable. The current level of socks does not allow us yet to call this episode Socks Galore.
Right.
We need at least 3 more pairs.
Well, okay.
Not now, I mean throughout the rest of the show.
Oh, right, okay. Well, I do have another finished pair to
Good.
show you right now. I finished my Oakworth socks, the blue ones that I was working on.
Gorgeous.
These are lovely. I'm so happy with how these turned out. I think the yarn's lovely. I dyed this yarn. I can't remember why, but I found it in my stash, and it was perfect. So I thought I would use it. So the Oakworth pattern, it's basically a little garter rib that runs down either side of the top of the foot. So I'm just rearranging the socks so you can see. There you go. And it depicts train tracks. Because these were designed for Knitty U in 2020, and the inspiration was
Like a Portillo.
Oh, yeah. Oh, lovely, Michael. The inspiration was the railway children. So Oakworth is the name of the station, and hence the train tracks. And I absolutely love these. I was pondering on whether I was going to release these as a pattern. I don't know if I am. I kind of, because, you know, sometimes with designs, I don't know, I just like to maybe keep them a bit more close to home. I don't know quite how to describe it. And because these ones I created these at a really particular time in history, let's say in 2020, and our patrons got them and knit them and loved them, and I've knit them loads of times since. They feel kind of really close to me, so I think I might just keep these for myself. I do have another pair on the go, which I think I'll show you next time, actually, because I'm working on those now.
It's not just for yourself, because Baker Bear patrons.
No, that's what I said. Patrons have got it, but
Yes.
that feels like
Yes.
close to home
Yes.
to me, you know, because, you know, it feels like it's us, you know, it's us and our patrons. But they're finished now and lovely, and these will be going into my sock stash. I'm going to be giving an update on my sock stash on our pop show on Sunday, actually. So that's those finished, but what I've got here, this was my previous pair of Oakworth socks that have worn out. And I just bunged these in, these are ready for the bin, but I bunged these in the washer just so that they'd be nice and clean to show you. But this was the last pair. I don't know if you remember me knitting these. I knit these using some mini skeins of dandelion and dogwood. And at the time, I thought they were the ugliest socks I've ever knitted. You can see they faded quite a lot. They did fade quite a lot in the wash, but saying that, they've been washed a million times. But they now have both gone through on the heel, look. I have still been wearing them. Just because I love this pattern so much, it's so comfortable. But I've got that other pair now, but I'm keeping those for my sock stash. But I am knitting another pair as well, so we'll see. I might have to wear a pair of these straight away. But I wanted to show you those because you don't often see socks in this state, do you? It's usually just pristine socks, but just know that, you know, my socks are worn and they're loved, and then this happens to them.
One of our most popular patron videos actually is your How Socks Wear video. You've done two editions. And yeah, the people, I think it's a very interesting thing seeing how different yarn
It is interesting.
wears.
This particular yarn, the dandelion and dogwood one, it's the 2-ply yarn, which I think is their most common base. It's an 80-20, and I don't think it's a particularly hard-wearing yarn. It's not as hard-wearing as the standard 75-25. These have worn through quicker than I thought they would, I'll be honest. The toes are still absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with them, but they've worn where all socks wear, you know, on the heels. For me, it's the bottom of the heel.
It's where you hit and you walk on your heels.
I'm heavy-footed. I know. Everybody walks differently, though. Yours wear on the sides.
It's on the balls.
On the ball, sorry.
Yeah.
Yours wear on the ball of the foot. Mine don't wear on the ball of the foot. They wear up here. And some people will say, oh, you should darn it. They're just not darnable. It's terrible. It covers the whole of the bottom of the foot. And you have so many socks, don't you, that you just knit a new pair and then you get...
to make more.
Yeah, you get new ones. So I like this yarn, but I prefer a more... This is just a 2-ply. I prefer for socks, I prefer a 3 or a 4-ply.
It's time to get back to Britain the stately era and to get inside a gorgeous townhouse. Without further ado then, I think, let's head back to York.
Let's get in there.
Continue the story.
Yep.
Welcome back to Britain, the stately era. So far in this series, we've visited some wonderful places. We started off, didn't we, in Barley Hall, which showed us how the Viking Longhouse became that great hall living that then grew into Benningborough Hall. And Benningborough Hall also brought in the inspirations of the Roman villa. And then, of course, Harewood House, that brought it all together into the grandeur that we know today. But the portfolios of aristocrats were so much bigger than just your standard stately home or country house. Because when the aristocrat was in the city on business, he needed somewhere perfect to live. And that meant the birth of the townhouse. We're on our way to visit one of the absolute best in the country, and I can't wait to see it.
Our destination today is Fairfax House, and you'd be right if you thought that name sounded familiar. The house was originally built for a rich local merchant, one of the new middle classes driving the growth of stately properties. In 1759, though, it was acquired by Charles Fairfax, great-nephew of Thomas Fairfax, who we met in episode 1 of this series.
Charles Fairfax was the 9th great-grandson of King Edward III, and as such, he had a stately home in the foothills of the North York Moors. But he needed a place in the city when he was on business for himself and his daughter Anne.
So he purchased the rich merchant's property on York's exclusive Castlegate, and he hired the builder of Harewood House, John Carr, to remodel it for him. As we've already learnt in this series, these properties have often had a varied history in the years after the stately era. Fairfax House spent time as a gentleman's club and a cinema.
But in the 1980s, it was bought by York Civic Trust. The years of history were peeled back and its former grandeur was revealed. And I can't wait to get inside to take a look.
The really spectacular thing about exploring these types of houses is the fact that they feel so familiar. Whilst we're in the centre of York, the aristocrat and his family still have the same needs, and so we find a drawing room, just like we saw at Harewood, just a little smaller. 99% of the furniture on show in this house dates from when it was built, making it one of the finest collections in Europe. Now, we learnt last time about the development of rooms that appeared around the time Fairfax House was remodelled. The first was the drawing room, and this was the second. Welcome to the saloon. It takes its name from the Italian word sala, which means hall. this great room was seen as just as important as the Great Hall. Architects would make use of grand scale, often producing round or double cube spaces with alcoves, apses, and even bowed windows. It was here that all the best pieces of furniture and artwork would be displayed. Concerts would be held here, and in their largest stately home equivalents, balls would be held here too. Whilst this might be a townhouse, the staircase was still one of the most important parts of the building. As the great and the good processed around your house, it was vital that you impressed them. And as we see here at Fairfax House, there was no better way to do it than with a stunning stairway. But who was it who lived here? Charles Fairfax bought it for himself and his daughter Anne, whose portrait we see here, positioned over the fireplace in her bedroom. The Fairfaxes were a long-established Yorkshire family who owned extensive land and property across the county. Their principal residence was Gilling Castle, 20 miles north of York. For 10 years they adored Fairfax House, whilst taking part in the city's vibrant social life. It was a high point in what had been a challenging life. Charles's wife had died not long after giving birth to her 9th child, with only Anne reaching adulthood. On our visit to Harewood House, we saw their vast kitchens. Whilst Fairfax House is much smaller in size, this was still the most important room in the house. From the earliest days of the country house, a vast proportion of the owner's income was spent on entertainment, and this was the engine room for all of it. A hearth was used for roasting meat, and baking ovens were built into the walls nearby. Although there was a table for preparation, there was limited furniture, as there was in fact few utensils to store. The earliest stately home household was actually an all-male community, but by 1759, when this kitchen first opened, men and women with a wide range of specialisms would have worked here. If you're wondering if it was like Downton, it wasn't quite yet. The role of the housekeeper was only just becoming significant, and it would be another 100 years before the structure of rules and regulations we know so well from Downton Abbey would appear. And this is where all the food produced in the kitchen was going. If you recall the vast room we saw at Barley Hall, now the desire for a bit more intimacy has brought us its replacement. This is the dining room where all the feasting of the household took place, and as we discovered at Harewood, as the ladies retired to the drawing room, the gentlemen would stay here smoking and drinking. Fairfax is a house key to the development of the country that would emerge from the depths of Cromwell's protectorate. You can find houses like this all over York and all over so many other cities in Britain. This is very much the arrival of architecture recognised as quintessentially British to this day. Whilst it wasn't built until after Thomas Fairfax's death, it has been wonderful to visit a property linked directly to his family. It's a tangible connection to the man whose actions empowered the Republic which emerged after the Civil War.
And it is to that story that we must now return. The year is 1658, and Oliver Cromwell is dead, buried like a king in Westminster Abbey, for now at least. The question is, who has he chosen to replace him? Let's head back to London and find out.
The man chosen to succeed Oliver Cromwell was his son Richard. He immediately became Lord Protector, King of England in all but name. He was largely unknown, and his rise to power is shrouded in mystery. His brother Henry was much more respected and had much more experience after his time in Ireland. Even Oliver Cromwell's son-in-law had more chance of making a success of this promotion, but instead the 30-year-old Richard was chosen, and he proved to be in over his head almost immediately. The movers and shakers of Westminster circled the inexperienced man, thrilled that they now had someone in place that they could manipulate. They advised Richard to disband the new model army, the power behind Cromwell rule. He tried to do this, but they refused, telling Richard that he should dissolve Parliament. Whilst he initially refused that, after exerting just the right amount of pressure, Richard agreed. In that one action, he'd signed his own resignation, because the army was now in control of the country, but they had no idea what to do next. So they recalled John Bradshaw, the English Republic's first leader, and installed the Council of State once again. Richard Cromwell was forced to resign, along with his brother Henry. Both would live out their lives in obscurity. Cromwell's protectorate was now over. The Republic first formed on the death of King Charles was back. But without any real leadership, what did the future hold?
The answer was not a lot. Britain was without any real leadership. Some positive decisions had been made, like a vast investment in the Navy, but apart from that, nothing was happening. Britain was well and truly adrift, and problems were rising fast.
The new government was isolationist in the extreme. They overturned the Act of Union with Scotland and ejected their members of Parliament. Whilst people thought things were bad with Cromwell, now it seemed one crisis would follow another. Whispers began in the halls of power that just perhaps this no monarchy thing wasn't such a good idea after all.
There are moments in history that call for a man of the hour, and this was one of those moments. Another time, perhaps, that springs into my thoughts is World War II and Winston Churchill. The question was, this time, would someone step up?
As the ejected Scottish members of Parliament returned to their constituencies, word reached the new model army's commander there of what was going on in London. His name was George Monk. He was once a loyal supporter of the monarchy, but he changed sides during the Civil War and had been Oliver Cromwell's staunchest supporter. George had little interest in politics, but he knew what the new model army was doing in Westminster was wrong. But how could a man with no real power in England, stationed so far away in Scotland, fix broken Britain?
This is the story that we will discover next time. It's a rip-roaring tale which will see the return of Thomas Fairfax and the return of the King. So for now, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with more Britain, the stately era. Welcome back to York and the final part of our epic story. Why we're here? Because the walls play a key part in today's story. For almost a decade, Thomas had lived in retirement on his family estate about a mile from here. But now, as the country stood on a precipice once again, Thomas was not going to stand by. Who do we have to thank for Britain's stately era? It is without doubt Thomas Fairfax.
What a wonderful house, an absolute treasure.
Yeah, it really
And
was.
Such an important, really, it is the key part to the transition between the stately home and the houses that we all live in today. And we're now on the cusp of the really, really exciting finale. I mean, like...
It's the last one next time.
Yes, it is.
Wow.
So the final episode is on the 20th of June. So don't miss it, because it's an absolute corker. And within that episode, we will be revealing what the second historical adventure series will be for 2025. And you really don't want to miss that. But next time, of course, Kay's back with her next My Perfect Socks.
Yes, I am indeed.
Yes, it's very exciting.
Yeah.
So look, I think it's high time that we had a little look at some more socks in the Endy Bits.
Endy Bits.
We promised you socks galore, and we're going to give you socks galore because...
Well, I've shown you these before, but it's almost time for the next Platinum pattern release, which comes out on the 1st of June, and it is, of course, the Lemon Top socks.
Beautiful.
So I've shown you these a couple of times, but they are now coming out in not long at all, just a few days' time. So our patrons will have access to these and be able to knit these gorgeous lemon-coloured socks, just beautiful, with this lovely swirly texture. It's a lovely, relaxed project for summer. You know, it's just knits and pearls and, you know, unisex again, which I always try to do that if at all possible. Then, you know, you can knit them for your whole family. So, yeah, Lemon Top socks coming soon.
Lemon Top socks out on the 1st of June. That'll be at 5 p.m. British summer time, because I know people chomp at the bit for the release of the Platinum
Do indeed.
patterns. The first Platinum collection pattern this year was, of course, the Pemberley
cowl.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
So this is the second one,
This
and
is
there's
the
two more to come.
Two more to go.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Our next patron exclusive show is coming up on Sunday. If you'd like to know how to watch that, you can follow the link in the show notes. It's live at 2 p.m. British summer time, and then you can watch it any time you like after 3:10. Summer of Stitching we've already covered. That begins on the 3rd of June, so don't miss that. And just wanted to mention, actually, that I'm sure you realise and you know that we produce regular reviews. But what you might not know is not only does Kay do reviews and I do reviews, but also our wonderful editor
Lovely
of
Jen.
Knitability, Jen, she also does some reviews, and we thought you might like to see a little bit.
Hey patrons, how are you doing? I'm doing well. I am back with another yarn review this month that I am really excited about, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a spoiler, but it is Beauty and the Beast. So the advent that I'm going to review for you today is actually Fangirl Fibers. She did a Beauty and the Beast themed advent in 2024, and my cats have really been enjoying the bag that it all came in, if you couldn't tell from all the fuzz. The yarn itself came in these really cute pouches, and I don't know where she finds these, because all of her countdowns, she somehow manages to find these plastic bags. I was trying to find all of the extras that came in the advent as well. I couldn't find everything, but one that I did find were these progress keepers. And you have Cogsworth, you have a bunch of different desserts, you have Mrs. Potts. Yeah, it starts out with all these beautiful blues, of course, representing Belle. Then you get into Gaston. type colors. But if you have been on the internet at all in the past couple of months, then you know the dyers are already thinking about their advents for this coming season, and I have been going mini obsessed, so I have really been enjoying all of my advents.
Yes, that is right there for you now, the whole review of that Fangirl Fibres Advent.
I need to go and watch that. I haven't watched it yet. I want to watch that.
And Jen joins us every month for a review, and then she joins us on our final patron exclusive show of the year, and she does her favourite of the year, a sort of Christmas roundup.
Yes.
Which is always really fun. Yes.
Yeah.
So, folks, I think that's it. Oh, yes, I think we've covered absolutely everything.
Yes.
So, thank you so much for watching. In the history of the Bakery Bears, there will never be a 2 weeks quite like the next 2 weeks.
No.
It's just going to be spectacular.
Yeah.
It's it's
There's a lot going on.
Beyond exciting.
Wait till you see where we're going.
Oh, it's just going to be marvellous on so many levels.
I'll just be glad when we get there. You know me and travelling, so...
But if ever there was a place that suited us more perfectly, I don't think there could be than this.
No.
It brings together all the things that we absolutely adore, and I think... I'll say no more.
We've been planning for it for months. To
say thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you soon, everyone.
Bye.
That was built on, that we visited in episode 2. I'm going to do that again. Just give me a second.
This is the land of the dead, and we're in amongst them.
No, this is a grave.
Where he'd set up with his wife and 6 children, and he moved such a...
Graveyard, wasn't it? No, this is a grave.
It was something about dead.
Yeah.
And make no mistake, or something.
Yeah,
We're in amongst them.
It was like that.
Inspired Barley Hall, we had the Roman villa that inspired...
Bye. Oh no.